Hello my snacks, welcome back to another video. Quite a bit of bullying going on in these updates actually. It's not a fun time, but I hope you enjoy nonetheless. My childhood bully has become my co-worker and she's bullying me again. When I, as an 18-year-old female, was in 5th grade, I was aged 10 to 11 at the time. There was these new twins who moved from the other side of the country to join my class. For some reason, these two kids did everything they could to make my life miserable. I think it's because I was socially unaware and a bit odd as a child, but I'm not sure. The boy twin was this very big kid who would regularly beat me up, and the girl twin would humiliate and spread rumors about me. Of course, the teachers never did anything about it. Luckily, these two went to different middle and high schools, so I wasn't bullied there, and I had a pleasant time in school after that. Most kids were not happy about going to middle school, but I was excited for them to stop torturing me. However, last month, I got a job at a new grocery store in my neighborhood, and last week, the girl who bullied me got a job at the same grocery store. At first, I thought, it's been 7 years, she probably changed. But just now, a few coworkers asked me,
did you really sleep with the manager so you could get hired here?
I shouted at them, no, and asked them where they heard that, and they said,
oh, the new girl told us.
I don't want to go through this again. I am genuinely reconsidering switching jobs to get away from her. I feel so lost and helpless. Now, I don't care how thick-skinned someone is. Being a victim of bullying is traumatic. It's one of the genuine experiences of being triggered in a situation. The very fact this OP is experiencing some sort of moment of fright or freeze? Flight or freeze? You get what I'm saying. Point is, I'm all for giving bullies a more harsher sentence for the way they treat fellow students. For one thing, yes, I know I'm ranting, shush. Let's just get rid of the word bullying. Call it what it is. Harassment. Abuse. But anyway, one thing to highlight is that OP isn't in high school anymore. They're in the real world. Which is why we have the top comment suggesting HR being their friend in these situations, which, that's a rare commodity. Get evidence and note down the moments and times where you've recalled this sort of bullying behavior. But of course, not every workplace has a HR, so if you can go to management maybe, or skip management if you have an HR. Because most notably here, it's actually not just the OP who's getting a disgusting reputation. It's also the manager who probably doesn't want the rep of being a sleaze and making 18-year-olds sleep with him to get hired. Now, this post began about 10 days ago, and the OP did update that there was no store HR, but there is management, so it seems there might be a chance for OP to rectify things. And just a few days later, OP did exactly that with some satisfying results. The last few days have been pretty chaotic. First of all, I found out the new girl at my workplace, who was my childhood bully, was spreading another rumor, claiming that my boobs were fake. I took the advice of most of the people in the comments about my post and sent an email to my manager, telling him about how she made up a rumor claiming that I slept with him to get hired. He responded, saying that this is a very serious issue and that he wants me to come into work tomorrow to get my side of the story, because my bully had a shift then. The manager came in looking absolutely furious. My manager spoke with her, me, and a few of my coworkers to see what was going on. After my manager spoke with my bully, I saw her leaving. She came up to me, said, "Screw you, tattletale Schmidt," and left. I asked my manager what happened with her at the end of my shift. He said, I spoke with her about the bullshit she was spewing. She tried acting innocent, but everyone I asked said that she was the one who made that stuff up. She's fired. We don't have to worry about her anymore. I was kind of hoping that she would throw a temper tantrum, but that didn't happen. But hey, I finally stood up to her. Thanks to the advice and words of support from Reddit. I'm pretty sure my past self, the little girl who had her backpack stuffed with poop-filled toilet on her 11th birthday, would be so proud of me. Jesus. See, how is that just considered bullying? It's just some kids not knowing respect and boundaries. We better give them an educational little seminar about it. Sorry, I've done many side gigs regarding school bullying education and stuff, and it's like they're afraid to tell kids that, hey, you're exhibiting abusive and harassing behavior that is not acceptable or tolerated in the real world. If you continue to project your personally terrible life experiences at home onto other innocent people, your life's gonna go down the drain. So maybe don't do that? Anyway, moving on before I rant any further. Am I the a-hole for not sticking up for my brother after my boyfriend called him out? I'm in a really tough spot and could use some perspective. I'm 28 female. I have been dating my boyfriend, Alex, 31 male, for about a year now. He's been wonderful and supportive, especially through some difficult times. One of the difficult times involves my relationship with my older brother, Tom, 33 male. Tom and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, he was the golden child, and I often felt like the family doormat. He would tease me mercilessly, make fun of my interests, and generally treat me like I was beneath him. Our parents rarely intervened, often brushing it off as typical sibling behavior, or even enabling it by saying things like, boys will be boys, or he's just joking, don't be so sensitive. This dynamic continued into adulthood. Tom still makes condescending comments, dismisses my achievements, and often expects me to drop everything to help him out, all without any gratitude or reciprocation. I've tried to talk to him about it before, but he just laughs it off or accuses me of overreacting. For context, I work at a museum in our city, a job I'm really passionate about, but Tom often belittles. He thinks it's a waste of time and constantly tells me I could do something more useful with my life. Last weekend, Alex and I were at a family gathering. Tom was, in rare form, belittling me in front of everyone about my job. I was trying to brush it off as usual, but Alex wasn't having it. He stepped in and told Tom to stop treating me like a doormat and to start respecting me as an equal. Things escalated quickly. Tom got defensive and the situation turned into a heated argument. Alex called Tom out on all the times he's treated me poorly and accused him of being a bully. Tom fired back, saying Alex didn't know what he was talking about and should mind his own business. Our parents tried to defuse the situation, but ended up taking Tom's side, saying Alex was overstepping and causing unnecessary drama. Now, Tom is furious with me. He says I should have stuck up for him and defended him against Alex. He claims that by not doing so, I've betrayed our family and humiliated him in front of everyone. My parents are also disappointed, feeling like I should have controlled the situation better. Alex feels bad that things got so heated, but stands by his actions, saying someone needed to finally call Tom out on his behavior. I'm torn. On one hand, I appreciate Alex standing up for me, but on the other hand, I feel guilty for not defending my brother in that moment. Am I the a-hole for not sticking up for my brother? Should I have done something to defuse the situation? Edit to add. I wanted to add that part of why I didn't defend Alex more strongly is because whenever I did try to say something in his defense, my parents just bulldozed over me. Every time I tried to speak, they'd yell over me, which brought back all the feelings of clamming up like I did when I was younger. It made me freeze up and just stand there, especially since it seemed to only make Tom even angrier. I felt trapped, not knowing how to diffuse the tension as it got worse and worse. I'm working on it, but it's not easy, especially in situations like this. By the end of the entire thing, I was just standing there crying, and Alex took me to our car to go home. I've been fielding phone calls from my parents and brothers since last weekend. I know I'm not responding to people, but I just posted this on a whim and just put it away. Second edit. Hi all, I just woke up to more comments. I'm just writing this edit to say I'm going to visit my Aunt Amy tonight to discuss what happened. She hosted a get-together and has always been someone I can turn to for help or advice when I need it. She and my uncle usually do step in to diffuse the situation when they're around, but they were both in the kitchen when this happened. Aunt Amy understands the family dynamics better than anyone, so I'm hoping she can give me some clarity. So things are naturally pretty tense for OP. Doesn't help that there's a lot of comments saying that Alex should leave her just because she was so frightened and beaten down by her family for all her life. Yeah, wow. OP is so self-centered for that. But oh boy, the update a few days later. Visiting the aunt and uncle was the best thing OP could have done because it has revealed so much that OP herself wasn't even aware of. I ended up talking to my Aunt Amy and Uncle Joe last night when I went over for dinner. As I mentioned, they have always been a safe haven for me, and it was really comforting to hear their perspective. Amy and Joe told me that my parents have always been wrong in how they treated me, and that the way they let Tom belittle me is not okay. They said that whenever they tried to stand up for me, my parents would not let them see me and Tom. One instance they brought up really hit home for me. I remember not getting to see Aunt Amy or Uncle Joe for a few months after my mom and Amy got into an argument. This happened after Tom ruined some of my favorite books, and Aunt Amy tried to defend me. She told my mom that it wasn't fair for Tom to face no consequences and that I deserved better. My mom got so furious at Amy's interference that she decided to cut off contact for a while. I think I was 7. I didn't fully understand why I suddenly couldn't visit them anymore, but I remember being upset and even more isolated. Joe explained that this is why they always tried to take me on outings whenever they could. It was their way of giving me a break from the environment at home. It just seemed to hit me all at once while we were talking. They're the ones who took me to the zoo, a movie, or just a walk in the park. All my happy memories as as a kid were never with my parents. Honestly, they're who I think of when I think of what a parent should be. After our talk, I've decided to go no contact with my parents and Tom for the time being. I need to focus on what I want and what's good for me. My aunt and uncle also promised they'd run interference for me so I don't have to deal with them. Also, Alex proposed to me yesterday morning. I honestly didn't expect it, but I'm so happy. We're going to be visiting his family over the long weekend to celebrate, and my aunt and uncle are going to go with us. I don't know what's going to come of cutting my parents and brother out, but I'm glad I'm doing it. Look, I'm equally suspicious of their convenient proposal happening at the end of the update to be a good ending, but look, besides that, it's a good story to read. And how typical for Tom to accuse OP of betraying the family, despite him being the one who was the most disrespectful to family overall, as this comment beautifully highlights. OP used to be so sweet as a doormat. Am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce my postpartum wife? It's stupid to think I'm at this point, but here I am. My soon-to-be ex-wife, 28 female, and I, 29 male, have wanted kids for years, and were thrilled when she finally got pregnant last year. From day one, I wanted to be the most supportive husband and future father that I could. Her father was never involved in her life. I used to work as a tech in labor and delivery, and my brother, to put it kindly, is not the most involved father. I saw too many problems up close when it came to lacking husbands, and I would be damned before I made the same mistakes. The problem is, roughly 4 weeks into her pregnancy, everything started going downhill. For one thing, she stopped wanting to be intimate. Fair enough. Hormones and stress make that a problem. I went full stop. But then she didn't want any physical interaction. No cuddling, no kissing, slowly becoming more and more distant. Her eating constantly changed, and she was terrible about it. She would demand I get her something all day, and then the moment I give it to her, she wants something else, screaming at me. Okay, again, hormonal issues, I get it. No problem. Next, she never let me go to any of my appointments. No groups that she went to. She spent more time away. She became cold and bitter, constantly angry at me. This went on for months. She slapped me a couple of times when I forgot one of her dozens of tasks she assigned me during the day. Stopped doing anything for the house a month into the pregnancy. I mean, sure, she's pregnant. I get it, moving around is hard, but she wouldn't even do laundry about 4 weeks in, and by 5 weeks, I did everything. I'm also the primary source of income. I barely sleep. I'm running on fumes. She made me sleep in the guest room, would always try and pick fights. Never once raised my voice, my hand, or my tone at her. I sat there and constantly mentally reminded myself this isn't her and this would all be worth it. But she didn't want to make any baby decisions. No name, no work on the nursery, nothing. Now, 1 month before she delivered, she yelled how useless I am and how I don't do anything and that she's staying with her mother. She didn't let me get her anything, come to check on her, threatened to divorce me, and get a restraining order if I even called her. A couple of weeks back, I found out about the birth of my son from a Facebook post. She posted it with her mother and some family. It broke me. I tried to go to the hospital and visit. They had security kick me out. Naturally, after months of outright hatred, anger, and abuse thrown at me 24/7, I had it. Odds are I'm not even on the birth certificate. I opened a new account, and all my deposits go there. I took half out of our joint account. She never bought baby stuff ahead of time. Who knows what that money was going towards? So now that she has to buy supplies for our son, she's used up every cent. I've also gotten a lawyer. The house is mine. I'm the only one who spent money on it anyway. I've sent the rest of her stuff to her mother's house. I'm demanding a paternity test. I'm not spending another damn cent until I get verification it's my son. I'm absolutely divorcing her. She chose the stay-at-home life. If she cheated, she's screwed. Her mother has money for a couple of weeks' stay, not even close enough for full-time support. If he is my son, I will absolutely be getting my rights as a father for a relationship. So last week, my soon-to-be ex called. She was practically hyperventilating. She wanted to come home. She was crying about how it was all a mistake. She's not staying with her mother. She's at a friend's house. She wants to come home. She wants our son to have his father. I told her I don't believe he is my son. Why the hell would she pull this stuff if he is? Show me a paternity test and I'll do everything I can for him, and him only. So now she wants to meet tomorrow at a park so I can talk to her. I said sure, so I can finally say everything I should have said months ago to her face. My parents are hoping we can make up, but they absolutely understand if I won't. My brother is a deadbeat jack-off, so I don't care what he has to say, but my sister thinks I should at least hear her out. And that's where the story left off 2 days ago. I mean, fair enough with all the examples of horrible treatment the OP was having here. It gets comments to theorize things like peripausal psychosis. But at the moment, it is absolutely one of those classic titles that sounds like the OP could be the a-hole, but man, finding out your son is born through a Facebook post. For one thing, I don't think any mental health issues excuses physical violence and this coercive control. That sort of stuff is a crime, and yeah, you deserve to seek justice for it. But what do you think? Do you think OP is right here just to slam the divorce card on this woman, or is her chemical imbalance in her brain excusable for the behavior she's inhibited? Well, it's just earlier today we get an update. How did this public interaction play out? And oh boy, I hope you're ready for an insane excuse from the wife. Well, ex-wife, most definitely. Before I ended up chatting with her, I opened up to my parents and sister about what was happening in detail. My parents were flustered at me hiding the more unsavory details, to say the least, and are probably going to be checking up on me daily for the rest of the year to make sure I'm okay. My sister would probably have to be held back from thrashing her, so I had to get a friend to help with the chat since my sister would not be able to contain herself. So basically, within hours of the story going into the digital stratosphere, I called my wife back as quickly as I could to finally sit down and talk. We chose a local park this morning, and I had a friend of mine record the conversation from beginning to end. I was basically ready to hear the generic affair story and get out of Dodge. But of course, it got complicated. We met at a section with picnic tables and picked one as far away from other people to avoid them getting wrapped up in any awkwardness. She looked terrible, haggard, stressed, and thankfully without the baby. She tried to have the big emotional chat and whatnot. I wasn't tearing up or acting like the hardened bitch. I frankly was just wanting to figure out what this was all for. But I didn't even get to ask the question before the floodgates spilled. I'm going to attempt to relay this story as best as I can because even looking back on the recording, it's a mess. But also, it's because I don't 100% believe it, so fair warning, it could all be fake. Apparently, this all started with her mother. As I said before, my wife's father was absent. He started off well, having 2 sons with her mother before her. But when her mother got pregnant with her, her father went from being the picture-perfect guy he was at first and slowly changed into a negligent, abusive, unfaithful, and unsupportive jack-off, ending with him disappearing when her mother was delivering. He's been in and out of prison since. No one knows why he did it. The impression her mother always gave was a strong, resilient woman who withstood anything life threw at her and did anything for her kids. She has claimed to be in therapy for years, but in reality, she has managed to conceal a deep hatred for men outside of her sons. But according to my wife, there was favoritism towards her. My wife also found out she stopped therapy almost a decade ago, but never told anyone. I felt like her mother seemed to always have some slight against me, and now I know why. She was never hostile, but certainly wasn't warm to me. And hearing about her secret hatred, I kinda knew where this was going. Roughly about half a year before she got pregnant, my mother-in-law slowly began sowing seeds of doubt and bitterness into my wife. Apparently, she had a full mental break. She told her about me staying late at work, possibly hiding an affair, or that myself providing majority on the income setting her up for a hard divorce. Everything my mother-in-law's husband did to her, she convinced my wife I would do to her, and she pumped this poison into her for months. My wife always idolized her mother, and compounding that with anxiety she's suffered from for years, my wife dove in deep. As soon as she got pregnant, like on the dot, she fell into a mental hole within days, and that's when her mother got hold of her again. Hearing about her pregnancy apparently triggered something fierce in my mother-in-law, and it spiraled from there. She had my wife fully convinced it was happening again. Apparently, every single thing my wife did to hurt me was at the behest of my mother-in-law, combined with pregnancy hormones, an undiagnosed mental illness she claims to have, but there's no confirmation, and stress. She completely lost her mind. She's 100% believed I would bail, so she was punishing me first, culminating in her moving in with her mother and leaving me out of the birth. While I was sending the papers and starting the divorce proceedings, she kicked into full-blown postpartum depression, and when her mother finally got her, when she finally finally beat me, which I guess was her victory over her ex. Did I mention she's freaking crazy? She had no more use of my wife. The family involved in the birth included my mother-in-law's sister and my wife's brothers. While my mother-in-law and her sister knew what was going on, my brother-in-laws got fed the bullshit narrative my mother-in-law spun. When my mother-in-law was done with her plan, the entire facade came down and my brother-in-laws found out everything upon questioning my wife. They were horrified. Needless to say, postpartum, facing a very grueling divorce on her side, no longer welcome in our home, and having done everything to alienate me from my son at the behest of a broken lunatic, reality hit her like a truck. She torched her entire life because her mother is a broken shell of a human who used her to enact her own sense of justice, the very mother who washed her hands of her after she got what she wanted. Or at least, this is the story she gave me. See, frankly, there are many holes in her story. The starting point of the pattern of abuse, the claims of who was involved in the delivery, me being absent from appointments, the friend who she confirmed is female she's staying with, and of course, my alleged son's paternity. But also, it seems way too crazy to be made up. Who the hell would go to the effort to make this up, facing what she's facing? As soon as she finished, she said she's setting up a paternity test to give me the info I need. With luck, it should be done in roughly a week or so once I do my part. She gave the most sincere apologies any human being has ever given. She's begged for another chance. I was, frankly, too stunned to say anything. So she left and promised to call soon. But I don't think I can give her another chance. I don't think I can ever risk anything like this again. God, I'm still hoping she's just being a cheating psycho and spinning a sympathy story to try and throw me off, because this got way too complicated. I cannot deny with the OP that it's absolutely a tricky situation. I mean, earlier I was arguing about how coercive control is wrong and manipulative. People who are victims of that should absolutely seek justice for it. But what if the person who's being coercively controlling is also being coercively controlled themselves? Maybe that term doesn't fully fit here, but I feel like it kind of does. But even despite that, if it has turned out that the wife is actually entirely a victim in her own way, is OP still obliged to even give any sort of sympathy at this point from what he suffered? Because let's remember, this has been over months, day in and day out, feeling unwanted, unloved, attacked, abused, scolded, only to find out the person who's been an absolute monster to you was, they were just really scared something bad could happen. I don't know, what do you think? You've got some comments trying to make the argument that, hey, yeah, she was bad and all, but she's seen clarity now, and that changes people. So you should forgive her for everything she's done for you. But of course, I can't help but think that sounds exactly like someone saying that a woman should forgive her husband when he's been assaulting her, just to try and make it work. This isn't the 1950s anymore. Women are capable of being independent, and men have been capable of that for a very long time too, so nah, I don't think you always need to make it work. Am I the a-hole for spending my son's university fund on a trip to Europe to drink beer like I always threatened, instead of giving it to his stepbrother after he passed away? My son was smart, smarter than me. I almost requested a paternity test because he was so damn intelligent.
That is a joke.
My ex and I divorced when he was about 12. She remarried when he was 14. I did when he was 16. I had an RESP set up for him. That's an education fund in Canada. As long as he went for post-secondary education, he could use the money for anything. I always told him that I was okay with him not going to university. That way, I could use the money I had saved up for him to go to Belgium and buy some beer from monks that only allow you to buy one case. He knew I was joking, and he always played along. He wouldn't let me get his goat. When he got accepted to McGill, it was the proudest moment of my life. I took him out for a beer to celebrate his achievement and mourn the loss of my trip to Europe. But my son was struck and killed by a drunk driver in March. I'm dealing with it. My ex is dealing with it. My wife has been nothing but my rock in this. She is holding me up. I was dealing with the funeral arrangements and everything when my ex came to talk to me about his money. She knew he had a scholarship and was just going to use the money for living expenses and an emergency fund. She asked me what I was going to do with it. I said I was going to do what I said I always would. I was going to Europe to drink beer. She asked if she could have it for her stepson. I thought about it and I said no. Her husband is a decent enough person, but he made it clear that he wasn't responsible responsible for any expenses for my son. Beyond food and shelter and stuff, obviously. Like I said, he is decent. So I said I was not going to do that. I was going to go drink beer in my son's honor. She says that I'm wasting thousands of dollars. And I guess I am. But I have to give back the government portion of the fund. And I don't care. My ex thinks I'm being stupid and irresponsible wasting my son's money like this. I don't care. My son would laugh his butt off if he knew I actually did it. It is a very somber tale. And look, I am on the husband's side about this. Dad's just, he's just living up to his promise. But there is some fair things to actually consider here that the comments highlight. For one, did your ex contribute to this fund? If she has money in it, she should have a say where it goes now that it's no longer going to their son. And as someone summarized his points here, the ex didn't put in any money, with he himself putting in about 95% of the principal, and that's not counting what the government put in. The money is accumulated of his folks, her parents, and cash birthday and Christmas gifts from when he was little. But she never put in money. Doesn't in any way minimize the fact that without my ex, our lifestyle would have been impossible. So okay, sure it's not her money specifically, but her parents, there's some people there that deserve some form of a refund or compensation for the investment they've made for the betterment of their children. At least that's what I think. And would you not also consider the fact that maybe she never put in money because she was putting in money in all the other places that enabled OP to actually put extra money into the son's fund? Just something to ponder over. Regardless, this does get a lot of not the a-holes and people just wanting to learn a bit more about the son. He was studying microbiology and immunology, at least he wanted to. Obviously, the pandemic threw that out a bit. Apparently, he talked about a lot of stuff that went over OP's head. I'm a baker. I understand yeast. He loved hockey and would try to get tickets for their favorite team, the Habs, every year, with some other touching comments from some Aussie chefs themselves, who were very deeply touched by this story, having a beer in his honor, and immediately texting all their dads how thankful they are for them. But okay, this gets some to question. Why is your ex-wife not helping with the funeral arrangements? That's her son too, and now she's here acting like a vulture. You should block her and don't give a flying fish about her. Her current husband didn't treat your son like family, so why should you be his kids? But Opie is quick to shut this down. No, her husband is a decent person. He has his own son to look after. My son had two parents. My ex's husband is a good person that was never cruel or abusive towards my son. He and I had a good relationship. He is a good person. The reason I took care of the funeral arrangements is because my son lived with me to finish high school. I was responsible for him. We still lived in the eastern townships. My ex and her husband just moved to Montreal this last year. He was going to live with them while he was in university. So with people flooding messages of support and offering to have a beer with him the moment he's in Europe, we get a little update a few days later. Hi everyone. We are on our way to the airport and on our way to Barcelona. We will be going to be in Europe for a month. The visit to the monks at Belittled will be the last part of our trip. 2 reasons. I don't want to lug beer bottles all over Spain, France, Belgium, and Holland. Also, I am putting it off for as long as I can. For those of you that asked, my son's name is Ryan. He was an amazing kid. I don't know if he got his love of the microscopic world from me. I did teach him how to make his own sourdough starter, and I will be keeping his alive to make loaves and waffles with. His ashes are in our yard, on Mount Tremblant, on the shores of the St. Lawrence, and I will be taking some to Belgium. My grandfathers have many friends buried there, and I think they would approve. I thank everyone that offered to buy me a beer, and while I appreciate the offer, I'm pretty sure my liver and my wife will not have been happy with me. I will be with the monks on the week of June 23rd. If you would like to join me in a toast with your favorite drink of choice, I would love that more. I love knowing that people all around the world know about my son, and he would love knowing he was toasted in such a manner. I spoke with my wife, my ex-wife, her husband, and his son. I invited them to join us, at my expense, for the last week of my trip. My wife's stepson was friends with my son, after all. I didn't know how close until we spoke. They are gaming buddies. They spoke almost every day playing online. He gave me a picture of my son I did not have. It is a picture of the two of them, aged about 14 or 15, at my ex-wife's wedding to his father. My son looked great in his suit. I cried. He did too. We had a very awkward but heartfelt man hug. Then we laughed. They will be coming to say goodbye with us. After talking to my accountant and my lawyer, I was told that I could not have transferred him the value of the RSCP. I have decided, after talking to my wife, that we are going to give him enough money to cover 1 year of tuition. Even after my trip, we will have money left over. I'm trying to do some good with it. I also said that he could call us anytime he needed, since he will be attending school close to us. So funny that he got accepted here and my son was accepted there. I want to thank everyone who shared their condolences with me. I want to especially thank everyone that helped me plan my visit to Belgium. I know we won't see each other, but you were invaluable. I don't think I will have much to say after this. Maybe I will post an update after the trip.